What's going on, everybody? What's going on? This is your guy, the Sports Judge. Welcome and thank you for watching. Now, y'all knew I was going to talk about this. Y'all knew I was going to have something to say about it. So, you probably heard by now, Deion Sanders is dictating where he wants his son, Shedeur, and two-way star Travis Hunter to go. Deion says NFL teams can expect Shedeur and Travis to navigate their way out of being drafted into bad situations in next year's draft. It's going to be an Eli Manning situation. Man, I tell you, these athletes and coaches now these days assume more power than ever before. Player empowerment. It's a real thing. It's a different world. The leverage appears to be shifting to the players nowadays. There is something to be said about being a really good player that you can try to create as much leverage as you possibly can. Players in today's sports can maneuver the situation in such a way that things work in their favor. This is the power that the players have now. I mean, I know that sounds crazy, but it's the truth. A lot of these guys are getting out of hand with it, giving off a sense of entitlement. It undermines the draft process. I want to go here. I want to go there. No, I don't want to go there. I want to play here. There are a handful of players who want to pick and choose now. I feel in a way you can be choosy, but in a way you can't be choosy when you're first entering the league. I mean, you're just entering the league. You can't possibly have a list of teams where you prefer to go. The whole point of a draft is to allow bad teams to get better. These dudes coming into the league these days want to go to somewhere they can contend right away. If every top prospect decided they're not going to abide by the draft system, then the system falls apart. What's the whole point of even holding a draft if the worst team isn't given the opportunity to draft the best top prospect available? Comments like this is what hurts a player's draft stock. And you know, Deion does a lot of talking. He's always been that way. I don't know if I'm okay with a young college star coming into the league with this notion that he can go wherever he wants. That's why there's free agency. You will have that opportunity when the time comes for you to test the market. Then you can decide where you want to go. I would be grateful just to get on a team. That's me though. Everybody is different. To me, there is no bad situation for someone that gets drafted. The hubris is comical to me. But Deion has always been like this. It's not a surprise. It's not a surprise. As long as we've known Deion, we've known him to be arrogant. It's him. It's his personality, his delirious ego, his mouth. The more he opens his mouth, the more he opens himself to criticism. He doesn't care what anybody thinks about him. He could give a damn what people think about him. I can't close my eyes and say he's going to guide Colorado to a national championship, but I can open my eyes and say he will have an impact and has had an impact and has impacted the lives of many of his players. So I do have respect for Deion. So to hear people say he's terrible for the game is idiotic to me. Like, he wants the best for his son and Travis, and most of us do. We want the best for our kids. So I have no problem with that. I see nothing wrong with that. And part of that is, well, Deion is a businessman. Yeah, I'm about football, but I'm also about making sure my guys get taken care of, their financial welfare. And he's not the first, nor is his son or any other player that has these same thoughts. A lot of players have said they didn't want to be in a certain city playing on a certain team. But when Deion says it, we make a big thing about it. We make a big deal about it because he's Deion. He's prime time. He's a guy who boasts, speaks his mind, and says what he wants. And that's what people have a problem with. It's his mouth they don't like. It's what comes out of his mouth they don't like. I wonder how these same people would have reacted to this if it was anybody other than Deion. The best prospects are usually forced to go to the worst franchise, be part of a rebuild. And some of these guys ruin their careers on a team where there is nothing around them. So I understand where Deion is coming from. I completely understand. They get injured, banged up, and never have a chance to contend because the franchise doesn't do what is needed to improve the roster. So I understand why a lot of these players and their parents feel a certain way about going to a certain team. Because we've all seen it. Player empowerment is about players having a say on their careers. Right now, they have leverage. It's all part of the business. It's more than a game. The way the entire draft works ensures that the NFL stays competitive over the long run. Players can always get what they want. Or they don't always get what they want. Deion can't get what he wants, but the players can influence where they play nowadays. And I think we're seeing it more and more in the National Football League and in most professional sports. We see players forcing trades. We see players saying they don't want to get drafted here, and then they end up getting their wish and they end up playing elsewhere. We've been hearing it with Caleb Williams. Rumor had it he didn't want to go to the Chicago Bears. It looks like he's going to be drafted by the Chicago Bears. But welcome to the modern era of football and any professional sports. This is how the players feel now. And they are allowed to feel that way. And I say that because they are the ones out there putting their bodies on the line. They're putting their bodies at risk, right? So it makes sense in a way to feel that way. And Deion, man, he has always been like this. Everyone is making this story bigger than what it is because it's Deion Sanders. Every time Deion Sanders says something, everyone reacts to it. And everyone seems to have a problem with his opinion. And again, he doesn't care what you think because he's never been that way. He's never been that way. So a lot of these players now, they feel like they can make their own rules. And what it does, there's pros and cons to it. It adds much more pressure, to not be a bust, and I mean, it's just one of those bold statements coming out of the mouth of Deion Sanders. And I just think there's really not a big thing about it. He can feel that way about his players, and I personally don't have a problem with it, but at the same time, I'm in agreement with Deion, and then I'm not in agreement with Deion. And I know you can't have it both ways, but I feel like he's on to something, but at the same time, part of being drafted is going to a terrible team to help that team improve and get better. When you suck, you get a top pick. You could luck up getting one of those guys to come play for your team. That's how it works. I like the system. You stay with the system. I understand the players have a different feeling about it, than what we do, Deion, obviously. But it's been like this for years, and I don't expect it to change anytime soon. But the players feel like they have more power, they have more leverage, and when you look at it, they do in a way. They really do.